Wow, 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 wow. What a game of football we have just witnessed. Big VAR calls, penalties, a young star boy, but only a point shared. I'm going to be brutally honest about this, like we always are on this channel. For me, that penalty is so harsh. Just today alone, the inconsistencies in the officiating today. Joelinton handballs it when Gordon scores against Newcastle, right? Dragusin shoulders, or Archie Gray shoulders Gordon, practically breaks the guy's nose, and there's blood pouring out, not looked at, right? And in this Arsenal game, Saliba, for me, touches a part of the ball. I have never seen a penalty in my life given for something like that. And Arsenal fans are going to feel incredibly hard done by. Every single decision that happens in an Arsenal game is such on the knife edge, whether it could be, whether it should be, whether it's not. It's always right on the edge where on another day it could be, on another day it's not. And that's the problem with the officiating in this league. In the same day, we've seen a ball come off a player's hand in the build up to a goal where Gordon scores against Spurs. And a similar incident happened in another Premier League game where it was disallowed. And then in one game in the Premier League today, we've seen a shoulder hit a guy's face and it's not a foul. And then in the other instance, we've seen it where it has been a foul. If it is a foul, then why is he not cautioned for serious foul play? Because it is a head injury. There's so much to get into. Make sure you go down. Make sure you drop a like if you haven't already. The transfer window is well and truly open, and we're doing daily transfer videos on this channel. Make sure you go and check out my Tottenham match reaction earlier and another painful defeat for us. Make sure you have subscribed to the channel. We just hit 37K. We're only just under 3K away now from that big 40K mark. But for me, it's a bit, looking at this from the officiating of the Premier League at shambles. If you're an Arsenal fan, it is a gut punch. I personally feel that's incredibly harsh. Most Arsenal fans will feel they were robbed. Ethan Nwaneri is one hell of a player. We've got to talk about him first. He is insane. Since Bukayo Saka's been out, this guy has relatively stepped up. I think he's got all of the capabilities to be a top player. His first touch when receiving the ball and then the turn to get away from players. His close ball control in isolated areas. His decision-making in the final third normally is pretty good for a player of his age. And he's got 2 Premier League goals now, and he's only 17. And most 17-year-olds don't even get on the bench, let alone are starting in a Premier League game. And he's got 4 goals in 17 games. He's got 5 goals. He's got 2 in the league, and he's got 3 in the League Cup. So he's got 5 goals in 18. It's not a bad record at all for anyone, let alone a 17-year-old. In terms of the Arsenal lineup, I understand why Martin Odegaard is on the bench, but unfortunately, Arsenal are in a situation where every single game now is huge. They've got a cup semi-final, and they're up against the Newcastle side that have won 6 on the bounce and 1 in North London today, and will go into that game with their towels up. Arsenal at the moment just seem to be lacking a tiny bit of clinical threat in the final third. They should have scored more goals today, in my opinion. In terms of the lineup, it's not a front three that we're really used to seeing at Arsenal. You know, there's no Kai Havertz, there's no Bukayo Saka, no Martinelli. They started with Trossard, Jesus, Nwaneri. Once again, Trossard returns to Brighton. And it's a midfield that can control games, but struggled at times with Brighton's physicality. Marino, Jorginho, Declan Rice. And it's a back four again where, you know, Ben White, of course, is not back from his injury yet. Calafiori, I would have thought, and he would have gone with MLS. Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back, and Gabriel and Saliba, of course, picked themselves. In terms of their bench, you're looking down at, you know, what sort of attacking threat's going to come off the bench. And, of course, you've got Odegaard and Martinelli, but you're looking elsewhere. You've got 4 defenders and a goalkeeper on the bench other than that. Whereas you look over at Brighton, they've got Enciso, who's a good attacking player, Mitoma, who's a good attacking player. You know, and Brighton really, João Pedro for me is a top player. If he's on the on the market and he's available, Arsenal should snap him up. But look, Nwaneri takes the goal really, really well. He gets the 16th minute. Arsenal were controlling the game. They looked, like they were in cruise control. He takes it really, really well. Despite the game having such a high tempo, both teams just kind of struggled in that final third. Brighton overhitting passes. Arsenal players couldn't really get the ball out of their feet. Jesus, a number of times, I thought he could have got the shot away, but he doesn't. Trossard the same on the edge of the box. Now, this is the interesting thing for me because Martinelli is in good form in the last couple of games where he has got a couple of goals. And I look at that Newcastle game. Could they have maybe kept Nwaneri on the pitch a little longer than subbing him off at half-time? He looked the most threatening of all the Arsenal forwards. But, fair play to Arteta. He does bring on Martinelli, who, for me, Martinelli is either brilliant or just looks a little bit off the races. Now, the penalty incident for me is madness. I have never in my life seen a situation where Saliba and João Pedro both go for the ball. If this is in the middle of the park, the game is stopped for a head injury and they'll probably kick it back to the other team's goalkeeper. Does anyone remember the last time a penalty was given, right, with this sort of instance where it's a player has not won the ball, and I don't know what to make of it. It's not a penalty for me, but in the laws of the game, does he make contact with João Pedro's head? The replay I've seen, right, Saliba gets a touch on the ball. Like, I'll see if I can find it on, I've seen it on Twitter in the background right now. I can't show it for copyright reasons, but he does get a touch on the ball. So realistically, it's not a penalty, and Arsenal should have won the game 1-0. And you think of all the decisions that have gone against Arsenal this season, Declan Rice kicking the ball away against Brighton at the Emirates is sent off, yet João Pedro in the very same game kicks the ball away, is not booked. Leandro Trossard sent off away at Manchester City. The very same game, Jeremy Doku kicks the ball away, is not booked. I'm not defending Arsenal here. I'm just calling out the inconsistencies in this league. Today against Spurs, Anthony Gordon is shouldered by Archie Gray, but in the same day, right, Saliba gets part of the ball but headbutts João Pedro. It's a penalty. You think back to the Saliba red card in the same weekend. Van der Ven pulls down Jean-Philippe Mateta against Crystal Palace, is not sent off, but Saliba is sent off against Bournemouth. That same weekend, Tosin Adarabioyo brings down Jota, and it's not a red card, but in the same weekend, Saliba gets sent off. The inconsistencies in this league are horrendous, are absolutely horrendous. I personally believe when it comes down to individual decisions, we have some of the worst officiating out there. Now, unfortunately, fortunately for me, because I can't stand Arsenal, but unfortunately for Arsenal fans, they are now 5 points away from Liverpool, and Liverpool have 2 games in hand. Everton away and Manchester United at home, and I think we can all say they will win both games. Liverpool will score a minimum of 4 goals tomorrow against Manchester United, and they will be 8 points clear of second place. If Nottingham Forest win their game tomorrow, or I think it's against Wolves on Monday night, they will be level on points with Arsenal. Obviously below, because the goal difference from Arsenal is much better. Now, looking at Chelsea, they have had 4 games without a win now. They are, if Liverpool win both those games in hand, something like 15 points above Chelsea. And I think a lot of people are now saying Chelsea are out of the title race. But for me, Arsenal just lack firepower. They've got to bring a forward in. 1-0 against Ipswich, right? 0-0 against Everton, 1-1 against Fulham, 1-1 against Brighton, 1-1 against Chelsea, 1-0 defeat against Newcastle, 1-0 defeat against Inter, 2-0 defeat against Bournemouth. They need to bring in a forward. It's so important for that title race if they want to actually win a title, that is, because at this moment in time, You can't look at this Premier League title race and say Arsenal don't need 2 or 3 signings. They must bring in. I personally think they should bring in 2 attackers. I don't know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts down below on the game and the decisions. In terms of Brighton, I thought Pedro was really good. I thought Saliba was really good. I thought Mitoma, when he come on, was a threat. I thought O'Reilly would looked really good as well. Nwaneri, I think the other midfielder was quite good. Igor at centre-back was good. In terms of the Brighton defending for the goal, Van Heck has to do better at closing down Nwaneri. David Ray, I can't really do too much about the penalty. It's a great penalty. Other than that, you know, in terms of the match stats, Brighton had more shots. Arsenal had more possession. I think on balance, a draw is a fair result, but I just don't understand how that is a penalty. If that is in the middle of the park, the player stopped for a head injury, because the referees always do this because it means a head injury, and then they will just kick it back to the goalkeeper. Arsenal dominated possession, dominated passes. Brighton had more shots. In terms of corners, Arsenal didn't really look too threatening today. Only 7 corners in the game. But in terms of like XG, in terms of, you know, as a threat in the final third, yeah, I just don't think. I think Arsenal have got to bring in. They've got to bring in a striker. They only had an XG of 0.84. When you're away to Fulham and you've dropped points, Bournemouth and you've lost, Chelsea you've dropped points, Brighton away you've dropped points, Newcastle you've lost. This away form cannot continue like it is if Arsenal win a league title. They've drawn 7 games now, which is more than any team in the top 8. Now, when you look at it like that, Arsenal have to do more. You know, a Cunha, a Gyökeres, a Williams, whoever it may be, they've got to bring in a couple of forwards, because right now, with Bukayo Saka being out for, you know, 8 months or not 8 months, 8 weeks or so, I just can't see at the moment how they're going to score much goals. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'll see you soon.